The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, I want to take some time to thank you for joining the Taboola Start Webinar. Just to give you an update, we're going to get started in about 5 minutes to let people log on and get access to the webinar itself. So just hold tight and we'll be starting in just a moment. Thank you. All right, I think we're about ready to get started here. I want to take some time to thank everyone for joining us today for our next round of Taboola Start Webinar. The idea here is to get you comfortable running and managing campaigns on your own with full awareness of how your Backstage account will look and how your ads might look online. Just to give you a little bit of background, my name is Rob McNeil and I'm a success manager here at Taboola. One of my primary tasks is to work with clients like you to make sure that you feel comfortable and prepared to run and manage campaigns on your own. Now, in my day-to-day, I work with over 300 clients of all company sizes and business models, each with a different primary goal or KPI with running on Taboola. I hope that you leave today with the proper tools at your disposal to run and manage campaigns, knowing that you are set up for success. There will be time for questions at the end of our presentation, but feel free to use the questions drop-down box in your GoToWebinar control panel to submit your questions at any time throughout the session, and we will address them at the end. You will receive a follow-up after this session with a full recording should you need to reference this material again. But of course, as you run your campaigns, you will have 24/7 support available at support@taboola.com. And you can also find any other info pertaining to your account in our Advertiser Help Center, also found by typing in help.taboola.com. Overall, today we're going to cover a few pieces, mainly looking at the basics. So what is Taboola? Accessing and navigating your account, tracking opportunities, creating and targeting your campaigns, and lastly, we'll look at performance and insights. So to start, what is Taboola? Taboola is a discovery platform that will help you reach new clients by surfacing information that they may like, but never knew existed. Now on search, you'll find intent. On social, you have referral. But what about users that don't know how to look for you yet? Well, that's where we come in. Taboola's discovery algorithm reaches users when they are in the exploration phase. It's for this reason that Taboola is a great resource for exposing new users to your content and bringing previous users back around to your site. We're also a great addition to any current campaigns you might be running with Facebook or Google or other search and social platforms for building your audience pools. So let's get started. First, to access your account, navigate to backstage.taboola.com. You will log in with the email address that you used to create the account, and once you log in, you'll see this page. Now, don't be alarmed if you don't see the graph that is referenced here. If you have not yet run a campaign, there's no data to display just yet, but rest assured this material will show within a few hours of your campaign start to run. If you're unsure about what email you might have used to create the account, you can email support@taboola.com and give any reference material that you can, and they should be able to assist in locating your account for you. Now, once you're in your account, we're going to look at a couple major pieces today. First, we have billing management over on the left. You have your campaign management. And lastly, we're going to take a look at the Taboola Pixel as well. Just to get a quick start here, the account overview for billing, we're going to first look at the billing management page. Billing management is where you're going to go to add or remove any of your credit card material. You can also see your last billing date. From the payment history tab, you can see recent records, and you can also export this data into an Excel sheet for easy accounting purposes. If your account is ever frozen, double check that the credit card on file is working or is entered correctly. When you add a new card, there will be a short period of time for the system to automatically attempt to charge the card or at least receive a signal. So if you add a new card and the account remains frozen, give it some time and it should work. We're now going to look at campaign management in the Taboola Pixel. This is our default start to where you can set up your account and get ready for creating your campaigns. We're going to start with the Taboola Pixel. It's where you can go to obtain the universal pixel code, define your conversions, and even create customized audiences for retargeting. The campaign management page is where you will perform the bulk of your tasks. You go here to start a new campaign or edit an existing one. You will also go here to edit your campaign inventory, your targeting capabilities, and your bidding and budget per campaign. Next, we're going to take a look at the top campaign content page, which will allow you to see the performance of each individual campaign item on a campaign by campaign basis. And then lastly, we'll take a look at the campaign summary, where you will go to find all of your insights. We strive for transparency and will give you many different ways to organize and analyze your performance, which will also give you tools to optimize your campaigns throughout your runtime. Again, now we're going to be going over our new pixel. Our old pixel information can still be found in the Help Center. So if you do see pixel management under your campaign nest, then you can access our Help Center for that information. The majority of listeners, though, should have access to the Taboola pixel as of now. And if not, rest assured that will be rolled out to your account fairly soon. So once we get into pixel management here, what is a pixel? Well, the Taboola pixel is a snippet of code that you can place on your website to perform specific tasks like tracking multiple actions, identifying a user's path through your website, and building custom audiences for retargeting purposes. When you first get to the conversions page, you'll be able to see a couple of options available to you. First, the dark blue button in the top right corner to create the pixel allows you to generate a universal code. Keep in mind that this code is specific to your sub account, and you will need to apply that code exactly as it is on every single web page that you operate with. Ideally, this would go in the header of your web page so that it can load as soon as the user gets to a page, giving us the best tracking opportunities. Once you have that universal code placed, you're ready to start defining your conversions. You'll go back into the conversions page and you click on New Conversion. Now, when you do so, you'll be taken to a new page that gives you several ways to identify or report where you want an action to be tracked. Now, one way to define a conversion is by URL. You can use whole or partial URL conditions. Example URLs would include users getting to a thank you page or a series of blog posts with the same URL condition. For example, maybe you want to track users who get to the politics blog, but not so much users who get to the lifestyle blog. Additionally, you'll have the option to create a conversion by event type. You can define conversions based on where users are going or if they interact with a dynamic button. This will require an additional snippet of code to be added to the page where you are tracking this action. This is either below the head for a page or in the relevant HTML snippet for an inline event. Examples would include when users add items to a cart or purchases a product with a dynamic order ID. Here you'll see when you switch to an event type, there are pre-selected options, or you can create your own. And you'll notice that you also have the ability to take that snippet of code and apply it onto the web page where you want the action to be tracked. Once this material is all set, you will start to see actions reported in your campaign summary, and then we can use that data to optimize your campaigns down the line. Like the conversions, you can also define custom audiences by URL and by event type. Again, you will go to the new custom audience page found just below the Taboola pixel section of your dashboard. And again, define whether you want to track it by URL or by event. Retargeting is immensely useful, especially when you have a higher priced item or a longer decision funnel. If you find that you're not receiving as many conversions as you may like, your first step should be to think about how we can bring users back around and encourage a lot more brand loyalty. And lastly, you can also track your audiences by event type. Again, you would be placing a unique snippet of code in the area where you want users to track, or where you would like us to track users' engagement. Our retargeting capabilities are also very easy to run something like an abandoned cart campaign. You'd be able to create an audience for those that get to a conversion phase, and we can suppress those users out, essentially targeting all of those who have started but have not yet completed the conversion funnel. The Taboola pixel is essential to your performance long-term on our network, so be sure you get that placed on your website as soon as you can so that we can have the best optimization opportunities moving forward. Now we're going to go into how you can create and target your campaigns. First, you're going to click on the campaign management page found on the left-hand side of your dashboard. You will be taken to a page that looks like this. If you haven't built a campaign yet, it'll be blank, but you will have the option to click on New Campaign. Keep in mind that we also give you a drop-down menu to sort or organize your content. If you begin to run multiple pieces or multiple campaigns, this is a great tool to organize or make your actions more efficient. On the right-hand side, you'll also notice a series of buttons per campaign. The pause button or play button will allow you to stop or resume the campaign at any time, knowing full well that you have complete control of your budget. The pencil icon takes you into your campaign properties where you're going to adjust things like the targeting opportunities and the bidding and budget. The third item in that looks like a list will be your campaign inventory, where we access all of the ads that you run for the campaign. And lastly, that double page icon makes it simple for you to duplicate campaigns with the same inventory, allowing you to diversify your targeting with a single click of a button. But first, we're going to look at clicking on New Campaign. Now, keep in mind, once we get to this page, this is also the same landing page when you click on that pencil icon from the previous page. This is where you're going to perform most of your setting changes. Starting first, the campaign name. This is not going to be published. This is simply an internal housekeeping tool. We recommend being as specific as possible so that you can organize your campaigns. Ultimately, over time, when you get more and more campaigns in your dashboard, you will see that the volume becomes quite high, and having a strong campaign name makes it much easier to keep organized. The branding text. This is going to be published with your headline. So be also cautious when you're creating your ads down the line that you don't include the brand name in that as well. Otherwise, you could be looking at some redundancy. The marketing objective, while optional, we do recommend putting one in place if you have a specific KPI to keep in mind. This will allow our algorithm to categorize your campaign with others with similar KPIs. You have the option to set start and end dates. Where we might default to a month timeline, you can also set specific or shorter campaign run times. A good example of this happens around Black Friday week in the United States, where users are running specific sales campaigns geared to a single shopping day. And then lastly, we have the campaign schedule. For those especially looking with a conversion, sales, or lead generation focus, a custom campaign schedule can be very useful. Instead of running 24/7, you can set specific hours of the day and specific days of the week for your campaign to run. That way, if you see sales come in maybe during specific hours of the day, it's best to put on a schedule that limits your bidding and your budget just to those hours where conversions are most likely. As we continue to scroll down to the page, we get into the campaign targeting section, starting first with the location targeting. Now, notice here in the screenshot that you can narrow your focus. Once you apply country lines, you can get as granular as zip code targeting. As a best practice, you should only target one country at a time. This will allow you to have the cleanest insights by location, but will also give you better control of your budget, as CPCs will typically be different from country to country. Right below, we get into platform targeting. Again, you can choose to run to all three platforms, but as a best practice, we do recommend separating your campaigns out by platform, because each will bid differently. It's not uncommon for mobile devices to bid at about half the bidding price of desktop. And so when you run them together, you're not only going to find that you're going to have weighted results towards one platform or another, but you're also going to find that your CPC is not being used in the most effective manner possible. These other three opportunities we'll look on the next page. Starting first with operating system targeting. We have 5 different ways to target, and these were both for mobile and desktop devices. You can go for Mac OS X, Linux, Windows, iOS devices, and Android devices. Once you've selected this, you can then further go into subcategory targeting. This is really excellent for really robust mobile campaign strategies, but also is an excellent strategy when you're looking for an app download campaign. If you want to learn more about our app download campaigns, you can go to our help center found on our homepage, taboola.com, and look up capabilities for our S2S or our server-to-server tracking. Next, we will get into the audience targeting. You have several options available here to you. First, we'll look at campaign clickers. Campaign clickers gives you the opportunity to retarget users who have clicked on one of your previous Taboola ads. In the screenshot shown here, Book Reviews Mobile would have been a previous campaign already made and ran on the website. And then we're retargeting users that have clicked on that ad and are going to drive them further into the funnel or to a specific landing page. Campaign clickers is a strong tool, especially for content related to PR or earned media. You can run to an article, say for example, if the New York Times has written something about you, you can run to their article, and then we can use campaign clickers to bring those users who read that article further into your homepage. Next, we will look at custom audiences. This ties back to the pixel that we looked at earlier in this presentation. When you define a custom audience for retargeting, you simply apply it here by clicking on custom audiences and typing in the name of the audience you've created. You have the ability to adjust how far back we look at these audiences, and you can make sure that this is an excellent tool for your retargeting purposes. Custom audiences generally has a much larger retargeting pool than campaign clickers. So if you can, go with pixel-based targeting first, because that will generally get you a wider audience, whereas campaign clickers is typically for when you cannot place a pixel. And then lastly, we get into audience segments, which many of you may see as marketplace audiences. We run with thousands of different segments across our platform that allow you to target users by a specific demographic or user type. For example, we can go wide and target people of different genders or of different age groups. We can also go really granular and target those who bought specific products, maybe, for example, those who bought Dove soap or those who recently purchased AAA insurance. And then we also have a slew of segments in between for shopper intent, interest engagement, positions in companies, and many more. You can type in keywords to find the list that is currently available to you, but if you are unsure of which segments to use or if a segment is even worth running for your campaigns, we would recommend starting by targeting no specific audience. As a transparent platform, we will give you the fullest data up front on how you perform across these segments, and so you can determine at a later time if it's worth reducing your audience, increasing your CPCs, and targeting this particular user base. Couple things to note. Before you choose a data segment, as I mentioned, we recommend running a run of network campaign for at least 2 weeks. This is a campaign that doesn't have any specific audience targeting and also does not have any site-by-site blackouts. Also beware of layering on too many targets, as it could shrink your audience too much. For example, if you decide to target one state with an audience segment and a single platform, you're looking at a very small audience pool. As a result, your CPCs need to increase significantly to remain competitive. Anytime you reduce your audience size, you should increase your CPCs, as I mentioned. This allows you to remain competitive, again, because you're just dealing with a smaller audience pool. And lastly, your campaign summary will provide useful insights into what targeting to apply. So if you're unsure about how granular or narrow you would like to get, we recommend starting wide and using our campaign summary to give you insights on where you should go next. Once we move past the targeting considerations, we then get into the bidding and budget. First, your bid is where your spending power comes from. The bid is going to be used to compete against others in the same category as you for space in our widgets or feeds. If you want to take over better placement or stand out more, you can increase your CPCs. If you're tracking conversions, it is a good idea to enter a CPA goal so that we can have a target to focus on. And then we get to the spending limit. The spending limit is the maximum price that you will pay over the lifetime of the campaign. Pay special attention to the buttons to the right of entire campaign and monthly flight. If you're on an entire campaign, your campaign will stop running either when we hit your budget cap or when we hit the end date of your campaign, whichever occurs first. On a monthly flight, your campaign runs across a calendar month and will reset on the first of every month. So this could lead to a rolling spend on a single campaign. Be mindful that as we approach the end of the month, you will want to be careful of any campaign that you do not want to continue to roll over. The daily ad delivery just below is how we spread your budget out across the lifespan of your campaign. On a balanced budget, this means we'll attempt to split the budget evenly across the days or hours of the campaign with a buffer of up to 2 times the daily allowance for click surges. Accelerated means that we'll spend the budget as fast as the clicks will come in. And lastly, strict allows you to set a strict daily cap of spend. Now note, there's still a buffer of up to 25% the daily spends to account for any click surges. For example, if you have a daily cap of $10, we may go up to $12.50 in a day, but we will never exceed the overall spending limit for your campaign. Then we get to the creative traffic allocation portion. Your creatives, which we'll look at shortly, will default to run to the best performers, but you can change the spread to test each item evenly. Please note that you may lose scale as we aren't driving towards the best performers, and we'll discuss more in the next slides. Additionally, note that even traffic allocation should only be used when you are starting a new campaign. If you switch an existing campaign from optimized to even, the system will reel and will drop your traffic. Additionally, when the campaign runs on, even for a while, it may switch back to optimized to continue improving your performance once we see or have worn out the overall activity count. And then lastly, before we get to the creative side of things, we get to our tracking parameters. As a default, we will append the Taboola source and referral for mediums back to the end of every single one of your creatives. If you'd like to take a look at our Help Center, we do have other UTM parameters that you can also add to this to track back information like by site information, by headline, and many more. Once you are ready, you'll hit continue at the bottom of the page, and this will take you to a review page before finally getting to your campaign inventory. In the example I'm showing you, this is what it's like to add multiple URLs at a time. You can also add just one at a time or many more at a time. When you add the landing page URL, you would place it here. Now, of course, this can be the direct landing page, but you can also use a direct tracking link URL if you are using a company like Volume to track various clicks per ad. Once you have those landing page URLs in, you click on Add on the right-hand side, and all of a sudden, a default set of ads will appear. Now, we start by crawling the website for the first image we found, and then the first title that we have as well. To change these, you simply click on the items you want updated, and you will get a field to enter that new material. So for thumbnails, for example, when you click on an image, you will see a box appear. You have the option to upload your own campaign files or by web URL if you've converted your images to a URL format. But we also have access to an image library, which I would like you to consider. The image library is born out of our partnership with Getty Images. We've made their entire thumbnail library free for you to use. Now, we default to choose some keywords at the start, but if they get a little too narrow or they're not the keywords you're looking for, you can replace them and add in new options. The idea here is to give you diversity of creative options if you don't have the resources yourself. Likewise, if you click on the title, you'll see in this new image that the titles have been updated. Simply click on it, and you can enter any bit of information that you would like. Again, our recommendation here is to keep between 30 and 65 characters for a standard headline. We also have dynamic keywords that you can consider to auto-populate information by a user's IP address, for example, by city or by country. These dynamic keywords can also be found in our Help Center. Once you have the inventory page up, you'll see you have the option to look at the landing page. This will allow you to test whether or not the landing page is functional. This is especially helpful for tracking links, but also just helps catch on any typos you may have added when adding the URLs. You'll see here as well that you have full access to the thumbnails, title, and URL at any time. And once you're ready, you go ahead and click Finish at the very end. At the end of that, your campaign will enter a campaign review period, which typically takes about 1 to 3 business days. This will get manually approved for our website, and you will be able to see the activity go immediately live unless you've dictated a later start date or have decided to pause the campaign from the onset. Once the campaign is ready and has started to run, then we begin to track performance, starting first with the top campaign content link found in the top left of your dashboard. The top campaign content page will give you your information for each individual advertisement across the overall lifespan that you have decided to choose. Now note, and the default will run to all campaigns, but you can narrow down and look at campaign specifics. So if you are running multiple advertisements or multiple campaigns, you will get very narrow views on how these operate. And then, of course, what you can do is pause out any campaign that might not be performing to your standards. In the example shown here, looking at the click-through rates, we have 2 items that are over a 0.1% click-through and then others that are below that. You may consider pausing out the items with lower click-throughs, overall giving us a stronger creative pool to work with. Once we move beyond the top campaign content link, we finally get into the campaign summary. The campaign summary is where the bulk of your activity will be shown. and this is where you can make the best optimizations for your campaigns. You can select a specific date range. The default will be somewhere in the field of the last 7 days, but you can also track performance to any custom time range that you would prefer. On the right-hand side, you will have the option to layer on new fields for your graph. We default to show you clicks and spend, but you can also layer on any other trend that you would like to see in tandem with your activity. The tabs along the top of your campaign summary or along the top of the graph will allow you to look at the data on very specific levels. And then again, we can also sort to specific campaigns. Now, my personal recommendation is to default to look at a specific campaign. For example, if you're running a mobile and desktop campaign together, the results may vary, and so you want to look at those on a much closer level. On the right-hand side of the table, or just above the table, you will see a new columns button that has been added. And this is where we tie in those conversions I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. We default to show you initial actions for the entire campaign or the entire account itself. But you can also layer on any other conversions that you may be specifically tracking. So if you would like to see the CPA or the action count for users who get to the add to cart page versus those who actually complete the purchase, this is a great asset to be able to define a user's path through your website. Now, one of the best tools that you can use off the bat is the By Site tab. When you're looking on a very specific campaign level, you'll notice a few tools available to you. Namely, you'll see the graph above, the bar graph showing the data and comparison across every website. And then the data below will show material for each individual website on a much more granular rate. You can change these columns again using that columns tool. You can also export this data into an Excel sheet if it's easier for you. On the right-hand side of this page, you will also notice a series of buttons. These are 10% icons and red circles. The 10% icons will allow you to adjust your bid on a site-by-site basis. So for example, if you're tracking sales and one site tends to be driving much better sales than another site, you can boost your CPC bid for the sites that are performing very well or meeting or below your CPA goal. And then for sites that are still driving conversions, but maybe they're at a higher cost, or you think you're spending too much money for a particular website but still want those conversions, then you lower the bid by 10% increments, essentially devoting less cost to that website, but still achieving the conversion rate that you need. And then lastly, if there's any site that's just not driving performance for you, you want to see no budget going to that particular location, that red circle allows you to block it entirely. Keep in mind, if you're going to block a website, we recommend only blocking it while looking at a specific campaign. If you were to block a website while looking at all campaigns, this will block that site from the account entirely for all current and future campaigns as well. Another great asset on the campaign summary page is found in the By Audience tab. I mentioned earlier that we have marketplace audiences or audience segments for user-based targeting. When you're unsure of what specifically might work for you, target no specific audience and we will instead give you this data up front. You'll find that below you can select specific segments, and you'll notice that when you do choose some, you can then click the button duplicate using audiences above. This gives you the opportunity to copy the campaign that you are looking at identically, but instead it will layer on the new segment and will offer a suggested increase to your CPCs. Now, in summary, some of the best tools that you can utilize. Number one, you should make sure you are placing that pixel. As a default, we'll track clicks and we'll measure performance based on a click-through rate. But now once we want to start tracking leads, sales, or any other type of activity for a user, that pixel becomes essential. More creatives means more to test. We recommend having around 5 to 10 creatives in a campaign to start, and that will just give us more to optimize towards automatically. If you're unsure what targeting to apply, start with a run of network. Again, we are a very transparent platform. Your campaign summary will have full detail on every single aspect of your performance. And so if you're unsure about how to optimize or how to initially target, let our system give you that information up front. You have a lot of targeting options available. Beware of going too narrow. You might find that blocking out specific sites might work better for you than targeting a specific user audience. Or maybe you want to look at state-by-state targeting as opposed to targeting specific operating systems. And lastly, your performance will change through time. Aside from seasonality alone, just online user engagement is constantly evolving or constantly changing. The best performers throughout our platform are constantly in the website. They're checking in at least once a week on their performance and making updates to keep in time with the current activity across the open web. So with that, I want to thank you for listening in. At this time, I would like to open it up for any questions that users may have had. I have my colleague Sarah here to assist in reading those questions.
Thanks, Rob. First question, will this be available as a recording for review after today's webinar?
Absolutely. The question was, will this recording be available for review after the webinar? If you have signed up for the webinar, you will get a recording within the next 2 business days, but this will also go up on our YouTube channel. If you find that you are logged in and you have our old pixel still established, you can go to YouTube and type in Taboola Start, and you'll find our webinar from March that discusses the old pixel.
Great. Next question. How can you see the number of users in your Taboola audience pixel?
In the Taboola Audience Pixel, this is something that we are still working on releasing. Another good way to track it for the moment is to set up a conversion pixel for that same site. We're going to be able to track at least how many users visit that page. As far as display of the audience pool goes, that is something that will be released in the coming months.
Next question. Can I see my retargeting pool size?
So the retargeting pool size, if you're using the old pixel, what you can certainly do as well is email support@taboola.com. They can also give you an estimate on what your current cookie pool size would be. Keep in mind that it may take a few days to pull this report, but it is available through our internal resources. And then once the new pixel is fully rolled out to all accounts, this data will become available on your dashboard.
Next question. I created my account yesterday, but my first campaign is still pending. How long does it usually take to get my campaign approved?
Certainly. The typical timeline you will see for a campaign approval process will be between 1 and 3 business days. If you receive any rejected campaigns, you should receive an email notification with further information as to why that might have been rejected. But of course, at any time, if you think there's a severe delay or it's been longer than 3 business days for your campaign to go live, email support@taboola.com and request an expedited review, and they may be able to push that through for a faster response.
This is a 2-part question. Can we import conversions or track calls? More so back-end conversion data.
So the question is to report conversion data or track calls. So at the moment, if you're looking for something like tracking phone calls from a user who's visited your website, you do have a couple options that won't necessarily track which users specifically call. But if you go to our conversions page and choose an event type targeting, you can place that event pixel on, say, the call button or the contact us button, and see which users who are clicking on your ads are ultimately in search of that particular phone number. So while we can't necessarily nest into your telephoning system, we can certainly track which users are searching for your contact information.
Fantastic. And the last question we have for today, if you have any questions after today's webinar, as you build out campaigns, is there any support we can use?
Yes, so our support@taboola.com is a great person-to-person contact. However, something I would highly encourage everyone who's listening in to take a look at is go to taboola.com, click on the Help Center link, and then click on the Advertiser Help Center. The Help Center does a very detailed walkthrough from campaign initial setup to optimization choices. And so a great walkthrough can be found there. All material that you would look for help for the most part, can be found as well. But of course, if you're still stuck, that support@taboola.com email alias is a great resource for you as well. Aside from that, keep on previous Taboola webinars. You can find those on the YouTube channel. And again, our Help Center is a great resource as well. All right, so it sounds like our questions have wrapped up for today. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen in. Again, you will receive a copy of this webinar within the next few business days, and this will be going up on our YouTube channel as well. So if you or any of your colleagues would like to reference this material in the future, it will be accessible shortly. Beyond that, I want to thank everyone for your time, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.